It's The Undertaker versus Mabel.
It is.
Oh my!
It is.
Oh my lord!
It is that.
Oh my lord! Because of the time limit draw between Shawn Michaels and Kama that we just sat through, whoever wins this match is going all the way to the finals.
Yes.
That way, if they win, their victory will seem much less impressive than if they'd have bothered to book something.
Yeah.
And let's hope that neither win. And then the winner of Savio Vega versus the Roadie is just the king of the ring.
Yeah.
Really.
So we don't have to watch this anymore.
There is an interview by Stephanie Weond on the entrance ramp. Again, WWF trying to sort of go, what would be cool? As they're coming to the ring, someone just gets in and goes, I've got to quickly grab you. You know, this is J. Jonah Johnson from the Daily Bugle. How do you plead? It's all that sort of a sense of going, anything can happen. And she asks him some banal question about, you know, are you looking forward to this? And he kind of goes, yes, I really am. And he calls her Pretty Stephanie as well.
Right.
Mid-90s, isn't it? You know? In comes Mo with Mabel. Mo is now wearing black. Mo, I've said this before, but I mean, probably the least deserving WWF superstar of all time. He really did nothing. He couldn't really wrestle. He just happened to be the tag team partner of a unique sort of physical specimen in Mabel. He would have a year really working in this role where he just wore a black suit and came down to the ringside. And he would ultimately be fired because he felt that even though he was getting essentially main event money for just walking down to the ring, hanging around for 10 minutes, then going back, he felt that he should be paid more because he sort of said he was an integral part of all of this.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, really was
interesting.
the poor lad. Mabel, perfect example of how, again, they were lazy. And Mabel is a remarkable looking guy. And when you also see how good he is at facials, his facial work is really, really good. He's very good at an evil face. He's very good at looking panicky. He's very good at looking sort of, you know, menacing. He's got a really, really good look. They just leave him in his old tag team costume, which looks like a fucking clown. You know, it looks like a tent. It's just purple and gold and it's got fronds. And what it looks like again is you sort of go, you're trying to sort of say he's going to be one of the big heels. That is not a heel costume, but also you cannot see that guy being a champion. He just looks ridiculous. He looks really, really shitty. It's again, you had all summer to come up with this. You know, it doesn't look right and it doesn't make sense out of the tag team. You know, it's just that sense of going, the problem is he's got to have all his stuff custom made. That's expensive. Don't bother. Just leave him in what this is. I do have a feeling watching this that Mabel, they could have made something of. They also would have had to change his name. You're never going to have WWF champion Mabel. And Mabel is this, it's an old woman's name. It's Doris, you know, Shirley. I can't understand why they thought that was good enough. That they didn't go, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's come up with something that works for this guy.
Yeah.
The name, shit. He does. The wrestling is as bad as the name in this as well. The Undertaker is in a period that nobody talks about, which is between 1993 and 1996. He didn't have a single good match. They put him in with lots of big guys, but Undertaker had the longest unbroken series of shit matches between 93 and 95. What's unusual about this one, I mean, this is particularly shit as well.
Yeah.
Mabel sort of does a side slam that he doesn't even lift him up and they just fall over. And Undertaker does a choke slam and Mabel cannot jump off the floor. And so they just roll about. It's really undignified. And they spend a lot of time, both of them, flopping everywhere.
Flopping about, yeah.
Flopping about. There is a good belly to belly that Mabel does, which I looked at and I was like, that was fantastic. Absolutely love that. The ref is down. In runs Kama to knock Undertaker about. And then Mabel does a leg drop for the pin. Undertaker was never pinned on pay-per-views at this time. Rarely pinned on house shows. He had last been pinned in 1991 on the Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view by Hulk Hogan. And this was a shocking pinfall. What it says a couple of things. One, Undertaker was one of the very few people in the WWF at that time who wasn't afraid to be pinned to try and get new people over. And that's to his credit.
Right.
The other thing it says is that they were so determined to make Mabel a big heel that they were like, the Undertaker has to take this one because we need a big heel. And Mabel is the guy we're backing. So we are going to have the Undertaker take this pin. It didn't work. It didn't work. This had not been a plan that was immediate. Mabel in a shoot interview said that he'd been promised the King of the Ring win at the Royal Rumble. in 95.
Right.
So there is no excuse that they didn't change the name and they didn't change the costume and they didn't make this better. But what happens here is you get also a flawed win. Kama came in for the interference, so Mabel wasn't even able to get a clean victory. So all of these people with all of these handicaps are going through, and even though you kind of go, well, you pinned the Undertaker, there's an asterisk on it. And so it's just impossible for these people to get to the level that the WWF want them to be at. This then continued a feud with Kama and The Undertaker that nobody wanted to see over the melted down whatever and this, that, the other. It's a funny thing how The Undertaker, he does reframe his career all the time. And he talks about it in his dotage, about being such a hard man. Like it was all, like in the early 90s, it was all brutal. And, and none of it was brutal back then. And you look at this period, it was, and he really doesn't fight and wrestle very well in this period. What happens with Mabel after this, and we could save this to the end as to what happens, but Mabel will go on to SummerSlam after this, and he will take on Diesel, and he will injure Diesel in that main event.
Oh, I can't believe that. Have you ever talked about sitting down on the job? Wow. The WWF champion.
He will then have a match with The Undertaker where he'll injure Undertaker really badly. He breaks his orbital bone, and The Undertaker will be out for a long time, and he came back with like a Phantom of the Opera mask.
Yes, I remember, yes.
When he'd injured Diesel had worked very hard to keep Mabel's job, and he'd said it was an accident, it's one of those things, don't fire him and that sort of thing. Obviously, with your champion being injured, it causes a lot of problems for you. When he injured The Undertaker, that was it. And they just sort of said, right, you're done.
You keep damaging all of our really valuable stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We keep giving you these opportunities and you keep smashing everything up.
Like an IT engineer just turning up and thinking, you just kicked a hole in the server.
Look, I mean, guys, you've got to understand, I'm not good at this. At what point did you think you saw me work and you went, oh, he's good at this? I'm not good at it.
Just give him the valuable stuff.
I know. Stop. This is on you. Because you're like, you can do this. I obviously can't. Heartbreaking.
Oh dear.
You then get Bob Backlund. He's campaigning for his run as President of the United States of America.
What the fuck is this all about?
It's one of my favourite things of all time.
It's pre-recorded.
Yep.
He's got the chance to do it a few times, and they've left in all the bits where he just stumbles over his words, he gets confused, he tries to ad-lib, he fucks it up.
The bit, there's one bit where it's probably 2 seconds of him just going... just waiting to be given his cue.
Hello,
Philadelphia. He sort of goes. What I love about this is this was a thing where they were like, he's an absurd man.
Yeah.
Let us do. Bob Backlund is running for president,
right?
And he'll have loads of genuinely sort of serious things that he's running on about literacy, yes. And he didn't want summer holidays from school until every child in America was literate. I mean, what's this got to do with wrestling? It's like a legitimate sort of weird Republican sort of.
It was like an Eric Andre sketch.
Oh,
the whole thing. It was screaming into a black man's face. Are you related to George Washington?
Yeah,
noted slaver George Washington.
I know. I'm not sure it was as well known back then.
Maybe not.
But he holds open like a Philly cheesesteak, and he's going, "This is not the good enough. It's cholesterol. You want a big carrot in there for vitamin A and beta carotene." It's demented. It's absolutely magic.
Do it once. You remember it. Have another crack at it.
I know.
Because all the ad libs bake that into your next performance.
This whole bit, I was watching it and I felt alive. Bob, we're going to ask you to do something now. I want you to talk about Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Not going to give you any thinking time. Go. Philadelphia. Why is everyone putting the litter out on the street? The you. Perfect. Great. Wonderful. Cut.
Those are the best rushes.
Now I know how George Washington felt coming up to Liberty Hall. We've got John Barry here. No, not Marion Barry. Washington. Are you related to George Washington?
The WWF did do a weird thing where, for a time, it felt like they were actually going to try and get Bob Backlund into the US presidential race.
Right, okay.
So they began handing out Backlund for president badges at every single live show.
Yeah.
And they were also included with lots and lots of WWF t-shirt orders. So they did this huge amount of merchandising for it. Wonderful. I mean, the whole thing through it is Bob Backlund has got two things. One is panic because he finds this very difficult and he's not good at it. And the other is, I think, a sort of sense of going, am I going to be the next president?
I'll have to do all this.
I've got a big company behind me and they've got the money to give me a run. What happens is the WWF suddenly just go, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Why are we spending time on television doing this? Why are we spending for all these badges to go out for no reason? Let's just shut it down.
Someone had a funeral they had to go. Someone in management had a funeral they had to go to, and they couldn't necessarily be absolutely destroyed out their heads of cock.
Yeah.
For 2 days, and then they came out and went, what am I? What is happening here?
I picked up some old wrestling magazines from 97 a couple of weeks back, and one of them had an interview with Bob Backlund, and they said to Backlund, what happened with the WWF president thing?
Yeah.
You know, and he just sort of said, I don't know, it's going really well. And then someone at WWF just sort of said, we're not going to push it any further. And he was like, I really think, we could have had a good shot at this. Another wrestling magazine, Inside Wrestling, did a big thing about it. They had a political analyst come in and talk about the chances.
About his chances,
yeah.
Right, yeah.
The political analyst didn't exist. It was just one of the three people who wrote the wrestling magazine pretending that there was a thing. But they were talking, and this analyst sort of said, what Backlund really needs is a running mate who is sort of, does the things that he can't do.
Yeah.
So their natural choice, they said, would be the WCW fan favourite Sting as vice president. So much fun.
I watched interviewing him at WrestleCon a few years ago, and at the end of the interview, unprompted, just as a headstand.
I know.
Was that his thing?
The best thing about Bob Backlund is, for years, he was this white bread, all-American champion.
Yeah.
They brought him back and they made him crazy Bob Backlund. Like, he'd lost his mind, he'd snapped. And actually, what was funny about that was the snapped, mad Bob Backlund turned out to be more the real Bob Backlund than the normal all-American collegiate wrestler. Bob Backlund seems genuinely like he's just on another world. And that makes him delightful. He went through a period at this time of, he would always give people autographs throughout his career for free. And at this time, he began saying, I want to do something about literacy. So he would only give people his autograph if they could recite every US president in order. I mean, he must have signed no autographs.
No, he'd have to
for about
stand
10
there
years.
and wait for somebody to remember all of them.
I think Bob Backlund would have remembered the first 6, and then nobody had ever got to the 6th. Or if you got to the 6th, you just go, no.
And 5 of them would have been him.
I have a feeling as well that Bob Backlund was actually illiterate, well into his adult life, and I don't believe he learned to read until he was quite advanced in years. And that is a fascinating thing that it puts here, where Backlund is campaigning all about something which he obviously felt was a great sort of detriment in his own life. A fascinating guy. One of those guys that I think when he does die, everyone will go, he was a unique and thrilling character in a way that they don't now. He's taken a bit for granted just as a tiresome, weird old man. His weirdness is what makes him brilliant. I've sort of, the more I do about Bob Backlund and on shows like this, when you see those little bits that you've totally forgotten, the more I go, I think he's one of the greats. I really do. Even better than that, Bob Backlund, they dropped that, and Bob Backlund then in 2000 did run for the US House of Representatives in Connecticut's 1st District. He was running for the Republicans, and he took on the Democratic candidate John B. Larson, who was also the incumbent, so he had a little bit of advantage. But between them, they split the vote. Bob Backlund did manage to get 28% of the votes. That was nearly 60,000 people voted for him.
Goodness.
So he actually gave it a go, and he did surprisingly well. Just absolutely charming.
You are the people that have had a deleterious effect on our society. And it's all garbage.
Look at that!
Garbage.
Oh, my.
Pete here from Wrestle Me. Now, just a reminder that this YouTube channel is a mere morsel compared to all the good stuff you get over on our Patreon. Patreon.com/WrestleMe. Every week we go through pay-per-views, both new and old, on the podcast. You get phone-in shows every now and again, an incredibly detailed newsletter from Mark. The Wrestle Me Patreon is where you need to be. It is ever so filthy. And sometimes WWE, they just take these videos down here on the YouTube channel, so you get to watch them whenever you like, in full, over at patreon.com/WrestleMe. Go there now!
The semi-final of the King of the Ring, it's Savio Vega versus the Roadie.
He's back again.
I mean, the crowd
They're
could
both
not
back
be
again.
less invested in this. This is the third time that night that the crowd have seen Savio Vega. It's the second time for the Roadie. Yeah. Everyone is beginning to sink in. They're going, why are we watching this shit? You know, what is the point of this? The match is what it is. There's a good pop at the end where Vega pushes Roadie into Jeff Jarrett, but Roadie stops. He manages to stop before he crashes, and as he turns, Vega hits him with a knee, bounces into Jeff Jarrett, and Vega does a roll up for the pin. And that does get a big pop. It might be as much anything relief that time is moving forward and these things are being ended. And they
seem to ramp it up for this match. I was like, okay, fine. Okay, is it going to get better? I mean, it doesn't get better. Nothing gets better.
No. They have a little bit where they bring out... I'm going to cough because I want to say his name. It's a foreign name and I don't wish to choke in the middle of it like I'm disgusted by not speaking English. Carlos Cabrera comes in and he does a little Spanish interview with Savio Vega. Again, something quite unusual by WWF standards. And when you're in a town like Philadelphia, there is a sense of going, it's a mistake to play up the wrestler's otherness and say he is not like you in some way on a very sort of like, basic level. What happens is they put in Michael Hayes, Doc Hendrix, to try and comedy it up.
Yeah, give some false translation. Yeah. The joke is Michael Hayes has no idea what is being said, but he does a false translation.
He says, I'll never be able to beat Mabel. I'm going to quit stealing hubcaps. And Doc Hendrix totally misjudges the time that this is going on. So he gets out a load of his stupid stuff. He turns around and he goes, Mabel's going to beat me very quickly. I'm going to give up stealing hubcaps. And then there's a bit where he sort of goes, this is 3 minutes of talking Spanish. And Doc Hendrix is just stuck there for the last minute going...
He's got nothing. He's gassed out.
Fucking it...
What?
Oh God! The walls feel like they're closing in. They're closing
One of
in.
wrestling's great talkers.
What's a bodega? I work in. No. Horrible moment. We'll just wrap up really quickly with the Stridex indoor airship.
Yes, Stridex, a popular Acne brand, I believe.
Yes. What did we have over here? Remember those pads you used to get that had...
We had
Biactol.
And stuff, I think, yeah. But it was like really stringent blue stuff you'd put on a...
That's right.
You'd put on a cotton swab.
Yes.
And you'd put it on the skin and it would fucking yuck.
You got these brilliant pads that had two sides, and one was the astringent side, and the other was like a sort of soothing, rough side.
Sorry about that.
I can't remember which side you used first.
But it just dried out the skin. It was a bit vinegar. It was just a bit horrible.
It was vinegary, but it was when you were a teenager and you were just greasy.
Desperate.
When you'd put that round and you'd look back and it would just be like dirt.
Filthy, yeah.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Why are we so greasy when we're kids? I can't figure it out.
Kids is greasy.
Kids is greasy.
Little kids are greasy, man.
I wonder if now kids don't eat crap all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's different.
It does seem like there's more sun. I seem to remember a lot of the time it was very damp and dark. Yeah.
My socks are always wet. My socks were always wet.
Yeah. And it was so bad the past. It was so bad.
It was miserable.
Oh, wasn't it? Oh,
fucking miserable.
Wasn't it? But you saw a lot more fat people like Mabel.
Exactly. Yes, you did.
Couldn't be happier.